Bungie has just released their first trailer for Marathon Season 2, as well as a devlog and a text post about all the changes that are coming in Season 2 and going forward with this game, because I know there's been a lot of controversy recently with Destiny 2 having its final update, the financial reports around Sony and Bungie, and of course all the Steam chart posting back and forth. But I want to say that this recent Bungie news update gave me a lot of faith in the future direction of this game. There's a lot of changes here that are definitely going to increase the player base, are going to help the lower level, more casual players get into the higher levels of play, especially Cryo Archive, that endgame map that is notoriously difficult. So I want to go through it all, hit you with the important notes so that we don't get bogged down in the Marsh. And we're going to start immediately with Dire Marsh, because Dire Marsh is going to have a nighttime version. And this night version is going to bring a spookier vibe to the map. It's going to ramp up the UENC bot activity and create some new high loot zones, such as the science lab in the upper floors of Complex. And if you've been to Complex recently, you've noticed a giant box there that you can't really interact with, and there are some stairways that lead up to doors that cannot be opened. Well, we're gonna see what lays up there when Season 2 comes out. And in lore, this is where the UENC monitors the anomaly, and they protect the best loot on the map here, and the anomaly will actually be much more active, and this is what's gonna be spawning a very sinister enemy, the repurposed shells of long dead runners. And I expect these to have multiple forms depending on what type of shell they're resurrecting. It looks like there's some more boxy ones. We obviously have the Vandal with the 4 arms. And I'm very excited to see how these enemy types play out, because it's going to be a lot more scary on nighttime Dire Marsh. But Bungie will be adding new tools, such as the flashlights, and all weapons will come with a flashlight by default when you load into this nighttime version. But they'll also have the new vector rounds, and these rounds create pools of light where your bullets land, which will illuminate runners. In addition, there's vector grenades, which will highlight the enemy and ping nearby enemies. They seem to be like the proximity sensors, just a lot more limited. And they have a similar color aesthetic to the dark light scopes, which are going to be new. They're about highlighting the area after you ADS for a brief period. They're not like thermals, they're just specifically for giving you more vision in the dark like LiDAR. And the final new item we'll have is signal flares, and these are pretty obvious. This is a thrown item, but I think these will actually cause aggro, because in the trailer that we saw, this is specifically what spawned the enemy runner types. Now, both versions of Dire Marsh will be available for the first week of Marathon Season 2, and that's because some of the contracts will require you to go to each version specifically. But after that, they'll be on rotation back and forth every couple hours, and I kind of like this system. It engages with how they do Cryo Archive, where in lore, Cryo Archive is not actually in orbit for you to go up to it half of the week. Kind of a cool way for them to balance and keep there from being too many queues and diluting the player pools. And as a little caveat, you'll have to exfil from regular Dire Marsh first to unlock nighttime Dire Marsh, but if you already did that in Season 1, you'll have both available. And talking about the exfils on nighttime Dire Marsh, they have locked them down. So you'll need to collect certs to activate the exfils on the map, and the certs are the whole way that you're going to get to the network towers and even get into that highest loot room. So I think what they're really trying to do with nighttime Marsh is, one, up the difficulty on a map that's not about close quarters hallway combat like Outpost, and also train newer casual players about the cert system that they're going to be using in Cryo Archive, because that's what Cryo Archive is all about. It's all about collecting the certs, chewing through the commanders, taking on the enemy players to get your clearance up. We got a new runner shell, the Sentinel, and this one is very interesting. He's a direct counter to the Season 1 meta, and it's not like they designed this hero in a day either. We gotta consider that Bungie must have anticipated how the Season 1 meta would play out, and were planning for this character to come out so that players would have a little more leeway in the defensive game, because that's really what he's all about. When we look at his prime ability, it's a trophy system. Deploys an automated laser platform which identifies and destroys incoming enemy grenades and missiles. So this counters destroyer missiles as well, and possibly even the missiles from the new UENC drone that flies around the bigger maps and just fires barrages down at you while you're just trying to mind your own business. This will also boost weapon handling for all nearby crewmates, but it is on charges as well, so I do see the counterplay of overwhelming it with as many grenades as you can possibly throw. When players try to make the push, the tactical ability Snare Mine, a thrown proximity triggered mine that detonates into several immobilizing sub-munitions, and these are usually fired at you from a warden or a high level commander. These are pretty damn annoying, they slow you down. Definitely a very powerful counterplay ability for the Sentinel. This could change the flow of a battle very easily if people are just brainlessly rushing with shotguns. The Castle Doctrine passive trait increases resistances after taking splash damage, so this is explosive but possibly even fall damage? And faster weapon handling, close range weapons, so this is probably SMGs and pistols specifically. But he's got another ability under the surface, the Prey Tracker. Activate a short range motion tracking system, allows him to see nearby moving targets on a radar, and this is going to be very useful for setting up your other traps correctly. Because I do see the counterplay of this, especially if you're using something like a recon or a thief to get all that extra info without breaching the room. So in my mind, this hero seems maybe OP on the surface, but it's one of those fair characters that is necessary to balance the game right now, because this game is all aggression, all push, push, push. Shotguns and grenades rule the meta, especially in those close quarters maps. Two new weapons. First, we have the KKV-9SD. It's a pistol frame SMG with an integrated suppressor, and it's actually a weapon from old Marathon games. An extremely fast rate of fire, 1200 rounds per minute, and it seems like it kind of steps on the toes of the Copperhead, which is also a fast-firing light munitions weapon. So hopefully they do something with the Copperhead, buff it a little bit to give it that X factor to compete with this new weapon. We also have the D54 Battle Pistol, and I really like this one. Bungie says it's specifically for 1v1 duels and close quarter encounters. Comes with an integrated red dot sight and can fire in 3-round bursts. Like a hybrid between the volley rifle and the Burt SMG. Perfect companion for sniper rifles and other long-range weapons, they say. And the point of this weapon is that the two pistols that we currently have are not really good at endgame. They're really not good past perimeter even, the very first map. This is something that you should be able to carry with you all the way to Outpost. They're also going to shake up the rarity of some weapons and put some new options in the armory. The point being that they don't want people to have the same old guns that they were using. This may even involve the sponsored kits as well, that remains to be seen, but I think a lot of the meta became about the same weapons, really the M77 and a couple of the shotguns. We got new chips coming as well. A couple of them they're describing here. The Brain Freeze chip. Precision downs and kills with this weapon create a small explosion that spreads frost. And this is interesting because frost is something we've only seen on the Cryo Archive map. The Alarmist chip. After aiming down sight for a brief duration, projectile impacts create a terrifying proximity drone alert. And I guess this is very similar to the Ornithologist, which makes the bird call, though I've never used the Ornithologist actively. I don't even know if it's good or not, or if it's just for distracting the bots. Third chip they're showing is Scrapyard chip. Defeating hostiles with this weapon has a chance to spawn depleted health items or standard materials. This is definitely a low-level wasteland chip. This is going to help in the early game grind, I guess. Standard materials, though this might help the player economy in the long run, because you can use those low-level materials to purchase things in the armory, you know, basic stuff like ammo, health kits, maybe even basic weapon mods. And because they're going to introduce this new system called the Cradle, and the point of the Cradle is to separate shell upgrades from the faction grind. Because right now there's so many things that increase your shell's potential, your actual survivability, and they're locked behind the faction grind. Some of them are so deep in the faction grind that it doesn't even make sense. Like at the very end of New Cal, you can get shield cells for your faction contracts, but you need to be getting gold salvage at that point, and by then you're just buying blue heals and self-reses right out of the armory. And the way this functions is that you can scrap your unwanted items, weapons, mods, whatever, and it's going to turn into effectively XP that you put onto your shells. And I believe this is universal. You can improve your strength, your recharge, your dexterity, and there are some keystones as you go up as well. And we don't have too many details on this. I think we're going to have to wait in Season 2 to see how influential this is on the game. But I think it's going to be incredibly game-changing because some players don't want to grind the missions. They just want to play their own way. Or if you're playing solo, it's a lot harder to do the mission grind and your factions progress much slower. And some people just like to collect loot as Rook and they don't really do the faction grind at all. But regardless of what you're doing, you'll be collecting loot. And with that loot, you can upgrade your actual power, your actual ability to play the game. And this is a huge W. But when it comes to the factions, they're saying that they are changing the rates at which factions progress. They're gonna make it so there's less ingredients involved to get the top level stuff. You'll get more experience for the faction missions, new ways to earn your reputation. I think they're gonna take a lot of the valuables and then they're gonna start assigning them to factions so that when you exfil with them, you get faction XP as well. And of course, they added the carry system very recently where helping other players do their missions gives you some points to buy faction reputation out of the armory. There's so many improvements in the game that happened over the course of Season 1. I think people who come back in Season 2 are going to be very pleasantly surprised with the quality of life changes, the ability to just get into the game and start grinding without all these artificial systems holding you back. Now, during Season 1, they ran a couple of experimental queues, duo queues, and sponsored kits only, and these were very popular with the player base. I think they brought back a lot of players that weren't actively engaging with the game, and Bungie's going to continue these in the new season with a duo queue that rotates every single day between Perimeter, Dire Marsh, Night Marsh, and Outpost. And I think the benefit of this is in duo mode as compared to trios, there's less chaos. There is the same amount of teams, but because fights are smaller, more contained, you can really rely on your partner to make plays, and good teamwork is rewarded a lot more. And with all that being said, the last thing I want to leave on is that Season 2 begins on June 2nd and kicks off with an open play week from June 2nd to June 9th. So if you have any friends that have been interested in this game, if maybe you're interested in this game and somehow haven't played it yet but ended up on this video, with all the changes that they've made to the game over Season 1 and everything they're going to do in Season 2, and considering how Sony and Bungie have committed themselves to this game for at least the next year, I definitely think you should give it a try. You should try to get other people to play this game. This is the perfect point to jump on if you're a new player, a relapse player, a casual player, just seeing if Marathon fits on you. And just know if you've been playing the game when Season 1 ends, all the assets in your vault and armory will be wiped. Shells reset to factory standards, so you lose all your faction upgrades as well. But everything in your codex and your cosmetics will remain. All the things you grinded for, all the vaults you unlocked, all the lore that you took home with you, that is all still there. And they're going to be adding a whole lot of new stuff as well, like new titles, new cosmetics. We've already seen some hints of skins coming out next season, specifically one that's going to be for PlayStation Plus for Vandal. This one's pretty interesting. Sony, of course, eating good with this game. I mean, Sony paid for it, right? How much are they in the hole for Marathon? Who knows? But comment your thoughts on all this down below. What are your hopes for Marathon? Are you excited for Season 2? And be sure to like and subscribe for more Marathon videos.